Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Sandy Smith, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Brigadier John Carey. Brigadier Carey is joining us today as one of his final duties in uniform after more than 34 years of service in the Australian Defence Force. Sir, we wish you all of the best in your future endeavours, and we thank you for your service. Tonight, we warmly welcome the family of Private John Barrow, whose story will be told shortly. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you are able, I now invite you to please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is God by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
If you are able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where friends and families could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private John Barrow. John Barrow was born on the 16th of May, 1873 in Maryborough, Queensland. Known as Jack, he was the youngest son of English immigrants, Charles and Mary Barrow. The family moved to Melbourne when Jack was young. Along with his older siblings, Thomas, Annie, and Charlie, he attended a local state school. He went on to train as a hairdresser before moving to Rushworth in regional Victoria. Jack married Elizabeth Penny Matheson in Rushworth on the 19th of November 1902. The couple had 6 children together, though their third daughter, Annie, died shortly after her birth in 1908. Jack worked as the town's barber and was a respected member of the Rushworth Fire Brigade. Jack and his family left Rushworth in 1914, moving into a small workers' cottage in the inner Melbourne suburb of Burnley. He continued to work as a barber, while his 5 children, Gladys, Eliza, Ivy, Annie, and Jack, attended the local school. Jack Barrow enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 12th of May 1916, his second attempt at volunteering for service. Initially assigned to the 22nd Depot Battalion at Royal Park, he was soon transferred to reinforcements of the 58th Infantry Battalion. While training at Broadmeadows, Barrow was briefly hospitalised, suffering from abdominal pains, but returned to service on the 11th of October. He completed his initial training with reinforcements of the 5th Battalion before departing Melbourne in the troopship Ulysses on the 25th of October 1916. Barrow arrived in England on the 28th of December 1916. He spent most of 1917 training on Salisbury Plains. On the 9th of October 1917, Private Jack Barrow proceeded to France and the Western Front and was taken on strength of the 5th Battalion at the Halifax camp in Belgium. His battalion spent November training at Devra in northern France before returning to the trenches outside Ypres in December. In early January 1918, Barrow was hospitalised. He returned to the 5th Battalion at the end of January, easing back into trench warfare with a month of training in camp near Locre in Belgium. The battalion spent the next few months alternating between training in reserve camps behind the lines and helping to push back the German spring offensive. By August, the battalion was stationed outside the French town of Amiens. Although it did not participate in the initial successful attack on the 8th of August, the battalion was involved in the attempts to consolidate these early gains in the days that followed. On the morning of the 10th of August, the battalion was at Lewis Ridge, outside the small French village of Lyon, preparing for a planned assault on nearby German lines. At around 8 a.m, shortly after the men had jumped off from their starting positions, Barrow was hit by a sniper's bullet and killed instantly. He was 45 years old. His remains were buried where he fell, alongside others who had been killed by German sniper and machine gun fire. His comrades erected a rough cross over his grave to mark his final resting place. In Australia, tributes flowed into local newspapers from family and friends mourning his death. The Age printed memorial notices from his siblings, friends, and his sorrowing wife and little children who remembered him as an ever-loving husband and devoted daddy. His wife Lizzie inserted a short poem in his honour. He sleeps beside his comrades in a hallowed grave unknown. His name is written in letters of love by his dear ones left at home. After the war, his remains were exhumed and reburied in Rosières Communal Cemetery Extension in the Picardy region of France. His Imperial War Graves headstone bore the inscription selected by his grieving loved ones: "Dearer to memory than words can say." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private John Barrow, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.